Okay, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And this week I have a guest with me, Patricia Regier from Regier Educational Services. And she is going to talk with us a little bit about working remotely in a non-traditional sector of remote work and how she got started, and just a little bit about her experience of working remotely the last few years. So Patricia, hi, welcome.
Hi, Taylor. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes. And actually, I did not mention Patricia and I actually met, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now.
Just over 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
We were both solo traveling for the first time, and we met in Brussels and hung out for, I think, one night. So I think you had to
Yeah.
leave the next day. And we've just stayed in touch. And so it's been a really cool friendship and journey that we've been on.
Yeah.
Um, but as I mentioned, she does work in educational services. And so do you want to explain a little bit about what it is that you do and provide for people?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my business is called Regier Educational Services, and I help leaders, entrepreneurs, small business owners, speakers, anyone that is trying to educate their audience. And one of my focuses is to help people reach the variety in their audience, so a variety of learning needs and types, and get creative with multimedia and resources and tools for when they're speaking. So whether it's leading a meeting online or in person, or facilitating training, again, online or in person. I have that versatility of doing both. And currently it's been a lot more of the online. It's been all online.
Yes. And do you want to talk a little bit about that journey? So as I mentioned, I would
Mhm.
consider education to be more of a non-traditional sector for remote working. Most people think you have to be
Right.
an engineer or work in tech or something.
Mhm.
And so you had a full-time job before this,
Yeah.
and you kind of built your own business and started working online um, for on your own. And so do you
Right.
want to kind of talk about that journey of getting there, making that decision, and what kind of like led you down this path?
Sure. For the last 20 years, I was working in the nonprofit helping service sectors. That was also working with collaborative projects and partnerships between healthcare sectors, government sectors. It was a whole range of bringing different collaborative partners together and creating and facilitating training experiences, people leadership, all of that. And then I also took a Master of Adult Education, and that whole program was online. So merging experience of what I was doing, the education, and just being ready to go out on my own. I was just feeling like the next chapter wasn't any longer necessarily in a leadership role, but using my skill set for a wider reach. And the reason why a lot of that's been remote or working online, especially the last 3 years while I've been building my business, is because of my long-term goals and my passion for travel. So sometimes what we're building is a long-term plan or goal, and I wanted the flexibility. I also wanted a farther reach of who I can serve and help. And in the future, I want to be able to travel more often. So having my business online where I can adapt to different situations, working remotely, really served my long-term plans, but also helped me serve more people in different places.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, I was recently in Disney World on like a little family vacation,
Yeah.
and it reminded me of your solo Disney trip video that you did, and I thought about you the whole time I was there. It's like, oh, Patricia did this all by herself, and she, I was just like, kind of like trying to, because I was with a large group, I was with my family,
Yeah.
and so trying to kind of imagine what it would be like to be at Disney World solo.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I was
Hmm.
actually just re-watching some of those videos the last couple of days. And I don't have those videos public right now because they didn't really match my brand.
Hmm.
It matched the beginning of this journey when I was talking about the intentionally brave stuff
Hmm.
and just entrepreneur self-care, that all. But I was trying to hone in my YouTube channel to be a clear messaging, clear brand, and
Hmm.
what people can get on the channel. So I still have those videos there, but they're just on private. So I was rewatching them because it was a little escape of what I felt, thought, and just enjoying that experience and looking back. But doing things solo is a different, unique experience. And I definitely encourage everyone to, when there is that opportunity, to do some solo travel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually that's another good point you mentioned about how like you started your journey one way and you've kind of, it's grown into different things
Yeah.
now. Can you talk about some of those changes that you made?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of the bigger points and why you made them and kind of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's definitely an evolution. I had, coming from the nonprofit sector, you wear so many different hats. So I could do so many different things with my skills and my knowledge. And there was a bit of a process. I still jumped in, which I'm glad I did, because through the learning processes and that evolution of who am I supposed to be in this context shifted a little bit. So I poured out where I was at, and I'm glad I did that. While I was pouring out where I was for personally, professionally, and for my business, I was exploring more tools online. How can I get this message out in a really creative way with different multimedia and on online platforms? So through that process of just sharing what I have and what I know and pouring it out, I came to understand what is my unique skill set, and who I can serve, what's missing that I can offer. And I came to realize that I have this skill set of, in particular, working online, creating online learning experiences, whether it's a meeting or an online workshop, and making it really engaging and creative and teaching people how to do that or showing them how to do that. Sometimes it's facilitating and hosting for an organization, or it's running with my own intellectual property workshop online, and show people what's possible, because we can take for granted what we know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to sometimes see, well, what makes me unique? What do I know that other people need to know? And how do I then put that out in a way that people that can really benefit from it?
Mm-hmm. And I would say more than anyone I follow online, you're always like being like, oh, look at this new thing I just like, new tech thing I discovered, or like you're always showing like new Canva creations you've done. And I'm like, I didn't even know you could do all that stuff. Like you really do. I can see that you really enjoy that creative aspect of like being online. And then you just share it with your audience and your people. And I think you're right. I think it does kind of foster this like more enjoyable online experience. Cause let's be honest, it can get kind of dull at times.
Yes. Yes, I don't even call them webinars, because webinars, and no judgment to anyone else. But traditionally, a lot of online learning experiences are boring for people up in the learning experience. And my enjoyment of ongoing learning of because the online world is ever changing, and there are more tools that we can use and utilize and adapt and learn about. And I do just like sharing, okay, this is how you do it. Make it more accessible, less intimidating, and less scary to learn new things. And I enjoy that ongoing process. I've loved the creativity process, because being in a leadership role, a lot of it ended up being, human resource needs and all of this different stuff. And it wasn't always the learning focus
Mm-hmm.
or tapping into my creativity abilities. So creating videos for YouTube and the editing process, that trying to think of unique ways of doing that. I've really enjoyed working on building a YouTube channel as well.
Mm-hmm. And so kind of let's go back to remote work a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You have a few years of experience now, and you actually have a full house. So you have a husband and kids. And so can you talk a little bit about like what has been your favorite part of making that remote work switch, and what has maybe been the most challenging part of that?
Mm-hmm. Great questions, Taylor. I'm still in my dining room, at my dining room table. We haven't built me an office yet. That is a goal. So that's had pros and cons. The benefit is that my daughters, who are 18 and 20, can see me building an online business, and the trials, the determination, the unknowns of taking that on that venture. So it's been good to be able to still be present with them. If I was in an office closing the door, then there'd be a lot less interaction with me, even though sometimes I'm getting interruptions. My family also, my husband's still able to go to his workplace, but my daughters are both at home. So they're used to, because I've been doing this for 3 years, and it's not just now that we're all home together, they're used to getting off the internet. If I have any meetings like this, if I'm running a workshop, any recordings, they're used to, they have to get off the internet because it's a shared internet. So even though I'm connected to the Ethernet cable, it can affect when everybody in the whole neighborhood's online.
Yeah.
I try to protect that internet capacity. So it's been, an interesting having the family around and building an online space, but it's partly for our long-term goals as a family to be able to travel, whether it's just my husband and me, or other solo trips for me in the future, and sharing the example with my daughters of what's possible. To work remotely and create your own business.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And also, like, what advice do you have for people who want to work remotely, or maybe are in some of these more non-traditional business sectors, where they might have to create their own job, or they might have to kind of go on their own? Like what advice do you have for them to like get started, or to start thinking about what it is they can do? Like, what have you seen, having gone through this process?
Right. Definitely, to, first of all, the belief in yourself and what's possible when it is unknown and you don't know for sure. Because if you're creating something out of nothing, that does definitely take some courage and tenacity and determination. But to keep putting yourself out there, like I could always, for 20 years of training in front of people, it didn't matter how the size of the group, I could do that. But then getting in front of the camera was a totally different experience of sharing knowledge in that way. And I think the only way I really grew with my comfort on camera was to do it and to put it out there when it wasn't necessarily perfect. And that's okay. Like, there's so much learning and growth that happens by just exploring, experimenting, being creative, and not stopping yourself from doing it because of fear of failure. So that's some encouragement that I would give.
Do you have any, or do you want to just talk about like your favorite online tools that you like to use?
Favorite tools. I do use Zoom all the time. I've not had issues with it myself. I use Canva almost every single day, creating, whether it's social media posts, my thumbnail for my YouTube video. I use a CyberLink Power Director to edit my videos. So those are three that come to mind. I have a lot of other tools that I use and create videos about those tools. And then I would say Presenter Media is a tool that I use and can create custom visuals for my clients, and also insert them into my PowerPoint slides or into my videos and online courses. With it, they're a great source of different visuals, and not just still pictures, but I can put my picture into a little laptop, for example, or my, like, create custom unique things. So those are 4 that come to mind off the top of my head.
Okay. Anything else you want to share about your remote working experience, or just like the journey you've been on with your online business?
I think I would encourage people to be flexible with themselves and their learning experience, especially if they're adapting to online platforms. Reach out for tools. There's a lot of YouTube videos and resources. I create some, and I know that I've learned a lot by looking at other people's videos. And I also have learned and grown the most by just discovery of playing around and experimenting, and just figuring it out. And it's okay to just keep learning, keep growing, and not just do it for a measurement of perfection, but for the love of learning and growing and being creative.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's actually really great advice, because I also transitioned from a full-time job,
Yeah.
where we kind of built all of our systems and tools in-house. And so I
Yeah.
knew about all these outside stuff, but I never had a chance to use them. And I think my whole first year was just just getting online and just doing a free trial. Sometimes I think I did that with MailChimp. I was like, let me just do a free trial. And well, actually they have a free account, but like just getting in and learning. And then with all my clients, they'd be like, okay, we're going to switch to this system. I'd be like, okay, I'll learn it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
just being not afraid. And I was always very upfront. It was like, I've never used that, or I don't know much
Right.
about it, but I'm willing to learn it. And usually they were like, okay, because if they're hiring you to do something, they would rather you spend the time learning it than them have to spend the time learning it, because they don't have the time. That's why they've hired you.
Right.
And so, yeah, now I sometimes go through all the systems and tools I've ever used, and I'm like, it's so many,
I know.
but I did that over time, right? Like, and it wasn't, I just jumped in all at once, but like starting with Zoom or starting with Canva and then slowly kind of building up. I've tried using other photo editing softwares, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm just gonna stick with Canva. Like, so you
Yeah,
also get to that point where you're just like done learning.
absolutely. Yeah.
And it's okay just to become more of an expert in something that really works for you and the way that your brain works. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing I've learned is, like, especially with project management systems, find the one that works for you. I love Trello for myself.
Yeah, I like it. You introduced me to it.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love it. But with a lot of my clients use Asana, and that's fine. But on my day-to-day personal life, I
Mhm.
just prefer Trello. And so I think it's just understanding that there's different systems for different people. And so test
Yeah.
them out and figure out which one works for you.
Yeah, I think being transparent about what we know and that we have the transferable skills to learn something new, but there
Hmm.
is a point where it's saturated and you start like at the beginning, it's, learning. And at a certain point, you do want to hone the skills on certain platforms and not, there is that point where you don't want to just keep going
Hmm.
for everything. But then it's that balance of, I have a couple things that as soon as I have some time, I've invested in it and I haven't had the time to fully learn it, but I know it's a tool that will be of value to me, but I'm not going to keep buying more and more and more. Like it's,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're staying safe and healthy in Canada.
Yes. Thank you.
And yeah, I'll put Patricia's links below in the description. So if you want to check out any of her online learning resources or anything that she's recommended today, I'll put links down there as well, so you can check them out for yourself. So thanks so much for joining me, you guys, and Patricia here. And I will see you next week.